weeks. And so, obviously vaccination is our best weapon, but testing is super critical, especially as you go into a gathering. If you don't have availability of testing, if you have symptoms, I would just assume that you are likely positive and to not travel or gather. Obviously, masking, social distancing, all the things that we know work, good ventilation. I am worried though, we always have this situation of a surge and then you layer on a holiday, and that's when you get an explosion of cases. And what we're trying to do is, of course, limit severe illness that could impact our health systems, cause unnecessary hospitalizations and unfortunately deaths.
And that leads me to this final question. We heard in Victor's piece about the reported rise in COVID cases among children. Given the spike in pediatric cases and hospitalizations, some school districts are weighing whether to delay returning to school after the holidays. This is certainly a hot button topic. What's your take on it? And do you think students and teachers should be tested before going back to class?
I think this far into the pandemic, I think unnecessary quarantine and closures is just too much for our kids. I think we know enough now to prevent that. So we know that it's about masking, social distancing, good ventilation, and testing. We've had this concept of a test to stay program. It's at my kid's school. You test and you decide, identify anybody who might be infected, and then they have to stay home and isolate, but you don't necessarily impose that on the entire school body. Kids need to be in school. They need it for their mental health, for their social, interactions. And so I would say, let's focus on testing, and we know it works, and keep our kids in school in the new year. I mean, they all need it.
Yeah, exactly the way my son's school's working as well. Dr. John Brownstein, thanks so much for taking the time this morning. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks so much.
All right, now to the growing travel mess. More than 600 flights already canceled this morning. That's on top of thousands already canceled this holiday season as Omicron tears through the country and airline staff. Frustration boiling over amid cancellations and pandemic-related travel rules. Alex Perez with the latest.
This morning, more people stranded after the holidays. Airlines canceled about 1,100 domestic flights Monday, many due to staffing shortages as Omicron cases surge.
It's the holidays. I was hoping it wouldn't be me, but I mean, everybody's going through it. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it doesn't get delayed again.
And with the pandemic still raging, travelers' frustrations are boiling over. With over 5,700 unruly passenger reports this year alone, over the holiday on this Atlanta-bound Delta flight, a verbal altercation escalates and gets physical as a female passenger confronts and punches an older man. Police arrested the woman, and the FBI is now leading the investigation. And on this Delta flight just before Christmas, the video obtained by TMZ, passengers scream as two men throw punches on a late-night flight from LA to Memphis, crashing into the seats around them. The fight allegedly sparked over mask wearing until other passengers stepped in to break it up. The men declined to press charges against each other and were not detained. Delta telling ABC News, while unruly passenger incidents are rare, there is no place for them on our aircraft. But 2 years into the pandemic, COVID-19 protocols are still leading to challenges on some flights. And while fights over COVID restrictions can still flare up, Dr. Anthony Fauci says a vaccine mandate for domestic travelers may be necessary.
When you make vaccination a requirement, that's another incentive to get more people vaccinated. If you want to do that with domestic flights, I think that's something that seriously should be considered.
And Phil, here's a reminder that a lot of people forget about. If your flight was canceled or severely delayed, you can get a refund. You just have to ask the airline. Phil?
A lot of people asking this morning. Alex, thank you. Now to that major winter storm system barreling across the country. Massive snowfall, frigid temperatures in the west. And as that storm system heads to the middle of the country and the northeast this morning. Rob Marciano tracking it.
This morning, wild weather moving out of the west and into the plains. More than 20 states on alert for dangerous winter weather. Blizzard conditions in Minnesota with harsh winds and whiteout conditions impeding the roadways. In Washington state, record low temperatures and heavy snowfall. In California's Sierra Nevada mountains, nearly 10 feet of snow falling in just 7 days. Dangerous driving conditions shutting down roads there. And avalanche warnings in effect in the regions of the Sierra and the Rockies. Officials warning conditions are ripe for devastation. Treacherous travel conditions in the Lake Tahoe area. This tree falling on top of a vehicle. And in nearby Truckee, 43-year-old skier Rory Angelota missing since Christmas. Authorities desperately searching. The last ping in his cell phone detected in the mountains.
Unfortunately, the problem with this search, as is with a lot of these winter searches, is the weather creates logistical and safety issues with searching. We are doing everything we can to find Rory. However, we have an obligation to the rescuers, too, to make sure that we're not asking them to do anything that is dangerous, and we don't want to turn one tragedy into two.
And in Colorado, a wildfire burning in Jefferson County, prompting evacuations and closing a highway. The road now back open and evacuations lifted.
Rob Marciano, thank you for that. Coming up, the just-released surveillance and body camera video of the police shooting of a 14-year-old girl. What the LAPD is saying about the incident this morning when we return. World News Now.
And America This Morning.
The best new video.
Breaking news overnight.
Your money and concerns about inflation.
The pandemic is not over.
The stories people are talking about.
You don't want to shave your legs? Don't. I was gonna say. And what to expect in the day ahead.
From the top of the world, baby! ABC World News Now and America This Morning.
Weekday mornings starting at 2 a.m. Eastern.
Up all night to keep you up to date.
Right now, with so much at stake, Sunday mornings, this is the place. Taking on all the tough questions, straightforward reporting, no spin, no hype, no bull. See why Sunday mornings, more and more Americans are now turning first to ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos.
Welcome to This Week.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run with.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
We will look at what has been happening this week.
And we'll talk about it
Later on the roundtable.
Good morning and welcome to This Week.
Good morning and welcome to This Week.
Good morning and welcome to This Week.
Historic. Join us Sunday morning celebrating 40 years of ABC's This Week.
Welcome back, everyone. The Los Angeles Police Department has now released new surveillance and body camera video in the police shooting death of a 14-year-old girl killed by a stray bullet as officers fired at an assault suspect at a Los Angeles department store. Zoreen Shah has the latest.
This morning, LAPD releasing surveillance and body camera video of officers opening fire in a North Hollywood department store. One of the bullets hitting and killing 14-year-old Valentina Orellana Peralta, who was out of sight in a changing room.
He's hitting right on the right-hand side.
LAPD saying the incident happened when police were responding to reports of an assault with a deadly weapon out of Burlington last Thursday at the peak of Christmas rush.
There's a guy with a gun. They're inside and everybody's running away, evacuating the building.
Police were responding to reports of an active shooter. They shot and killed Daniel Elena Lopez, who turned out not to be carrying a gun, but was attacking several customers with a bike lock. One of the police bullets went through a wall, striking Valentina in a dressing room, who died in her mother's arms.
He's bleeding.
Her mother's attorney saying they want LAPD to release all the video from the scene and for the officer to be held accountable.
There was no weapon. There was no active shooter. And so that may be multiple problems, whether it be a system failure, whether it be somebody who just shouldn't have even been on the job.
One officer is on paid leave. As for Valentina, her mom and dad are speaking out today for the first time in just a few hours. Phil?
Zoreen, thank you for that. Now to the driving and the severe weather. We all try to do this at the beginning of winter with winter storm advisories and alerts stretching from coast to coast. Matt Gutman is in snowy Reno, Nevada with tips on how to safely navigate through black ice.
This morning, hundreds of thousands of motorists facing that post-Christmas wintry blast. Dozens of vehicles sliding off the roads this past holiday weekend. This SUV in Washington gliding off a hill and down the road. And in Minnesota, a 3-car wreck on Interstate 94. A December record of 193 inches of snow in California's Sierras, where so many, like my own family, were stranded since Christmas.
This is our third consecutive day of trying to make a break for it. The roads are open for the first time in a couple days, and we are really going to try.
Snow clearance operations overwhelmed. This machine slowly chewing up that snow and spitting it out. The wind blasting roads with snow, creating those whiteout conditions.
So it's been an hour into our drive. We've made it about 6 miles so far.
At times, we drove less than 10 miles an hour. It was hard to tell where the snowdrifts ended and the road began. And everywhere, abandoned cars encased in cement-like snow. Even plows getting stuck.
Called a good friend of mine at the California Highway Patrol, asked for any tips for driving in the snow. He said, yes, 3. Slow, slower, and slow.
And for millions of drivers facing black ice, that advice can be life-saving.
I'm only doing 30 miles an hour, but if I slam on the brakes, you can see that with no system active, you can see that I don't have any control. I'm just sliding no matter what steering input I put in.
Our Gio Benitez heading to Chevrolet's test track in 2019 to see how quickly a little patience can make a big difference.
What should people do when they're on this road and they see this black ice and they hit the black ice?
You can drive across this slippery surface with very light throttle inputs, very slight steering inputs, and the vehicle doesn't spin out of control because there's nothing upsetting the vehicle.
And when you do need to turn, no matter what kind of car you're driving, the experts say perform one action at a time. While still in a straight line, gently press on the brake to slow the vehicle. Once at a safe speed, release the brake and then make your turn. Once the wheel is straight again, that's when you accelerate. Steering combined with braking or accelerating increases your chances of losing control.
You should try to do one and only one thing at the same time.
If you can't avoid a fishtail, you want to steer calmly in the direction you want to go.
Basically, if the rear of the vehicle is moving to the right, you want to steer to the right.
Finally, the Gutmans made it to Interstate 80, which links Reno and Sacramento, parts of which remain closed this morning. We got lucky with that pair of snowplows clearing the way ahead of us. 4 hours later to the Nevada line and clear roads.
All right, Phil, so the Gutman family is in Reno. We've got to get to Los Angeles. It's probably more than 8 hours with two very tired kids. But in case we encounter more black ice or snow along the way, which is very likely, we now have those really important tips. Key is to go slow, slow, slower, as the California Highway Patrol likes to say, and to only apply one action at a time. These are really easy to remember, so we're going to use them. Hopefully other people can benefit from them at home as well. Phil.
Matt, thank you. The Gutman family vacation is riveting this year. We hope you get to where you're going safely. And coming up, the award-winning director behind Big Little Lies passing away suddenly. We have more on the tributes pouring in when we come back.
National parks are incredibly safe places. A crime will happen.
Hey, Mama. My wife is old and she's in really critical condition.
At that time, I thought it was just a tragic accident.
There's still a lot of questions we need to ask.
There were small things that didn't totally add up.
This is 2 lives for Harold that have died now. I was shocked. Something's not right.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
I know what happened, and I'm not guilty.
Why the fascination with criminal trials? Figure out what's really out there.
She revealed she had murdered his family.
I know in my heart that he did this. It's the time of suspicion.
The ending's really tough.
You don't know whether truth is going to be difficult to find unless you try to find it.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
Welcome back, everyone. Tributes continue to pour in this morning after the sudden death of award-winning director Jean-Marc Vallée. As his producing partner told ABC News, Jean-Marc stood for creativity and authenticity. Kaylee Hartung with the details.
We should scream and beat our breasts and tear our hair. Don't you feel angry?
He was the award-winning filmmaker, best known for directing the hit series Big Little Lies.
I was holding on to this idea of perfection so tight.
This morning, tributes pouring in from Hollywood and beyond for Canadian director, producer, and editor Jean-Marc Vallée, as we learn more about his sudden death over the holiday weekend. Sources tell ABC News the likely cause of death, a heart attack, though officially it is yet to be determined.
His passing came as shock and surprise. He didn't drink, didn't smoke, and probably the healthiest 58-year-old I know.
The acclaimed director got his start making short films, but made his mainstream mark in the industry helming Dallas Buyers Club.
Mr. Woodruff, we estimate that you have approximately 30 days.
The film earning a Best Picture Oscar nomination and snagging acting statues for Matthew McConaughey and Jared Leto.
All right.
Vallée would then foray into television, directing and writing the first season of HBO's Emmy-winning drama Big Little Lies, picking up his own Emmy in the process.
And the Emmy goes to Jean-Marc Vallée.
His closest friends and colleagues among those sharing their tributes online. Reese Witherspoon tweeting, "My heart is broken." Nicole Kidman saying, "I'm shattered. He was at the center of my creative universe." And Matthew McConaughey adding, "Love stories were everywhere in his eye." Jean-Marc Vallée was 58.
And Phil, Jean-Marc Vallée was very careful about choosing the projects that he would take on, once explaining that choosing your film is choosing your lifestyle, and saying he would ask himself, are you going to be happy waking up every morning doing this and serving it? Our condolences to his family and his two sons. Phil.
Absolutely, Kaylee. Thank you so much. I'm Phil Lipoff, and thank you for joining us. The news continues with the latest context and analysis right here on ABC News Live.
More Americans choose ABC News, America's #1 news source.
The ladies you love, the hottest topics happening now. There's only one place to find it all.
You guys are having the hard conversations.